Everyone, welcome back. Let's talk about what could happen in episode 4 because this episode feels like the moment where the story reaches a point of no return for Dicle and Erkan. The dialogue we hear already hints at the emotional pressure building around them. Lines like, "One day you'll wear a wedding dress even more beautiful than this and marry a man who truly loves you," sound comforting on the surface, but underneath they reveal something painful, that the people around Dicle don't believe Erkan will be that man. Other lines make the tension even clearer. Accusations, warnings, and the feeling that Dicle has been underestimated and overlooked for a long time. It creates the sense that she has been treated like the poor girl in a story where wealth and status decide everything. But if the so-called Cinderella decides to fight back, the entire balance of the story could change. At the center of this episode is the growing conflict between love and family pressure. Because of his father, Erkan may be forced to marry Bursan, which would mean he must separate from Dicle despite his feelings. That situation alone pushes the relationship to a painful crossroads. Dicle struggles to accept the idea that Erkan could marry someone else, and the thought of losing him leaves her devastated. Yet the deeper the story goes, the clearer it becomes that the love between them isn't disappearing, it's becoming stronger, even while outside forces try to tear them apart. The episode could begin with a mysterious moment that sets the tone for everything that follows. Late at night, Dicle receives a strange message that simply says, "Are you ready to learn the truth?" Those few words signal that a secret she has been carrying may soon come into the open. For months, she has been hiding something out of fear that Erkan might never forgive her if he knew. But now the fear of losing him completely becomes heavier than the fear of telling the truth. So she decides she has to confess everything. The next day, Dicle meets Erkan to finally talk. Erkan has already sensed that something is wrong with her lately. He can see she's been distant and withdrawn, but he hasn't pushed her, thinking she just needs time. However, just as Dicle gathers the courage to speak, the situation suddenly becomes more complicated when Erkan's former fiancé appears. Her arrival changes the mood instantly. She hints that she is still in contact with Erkan's family, and that suggestion plants doubt in Dicle's mind. Erkan tries to reassure her, explaining that his family is the one maintaining those connections and that his heart belongs only to Dicle, but for the first time Dicle hesitates. That hesitation reveals how fragile trust can become once outside pressure enters the relationship. Meanwhile, the truth Dicle has been hiding slowly starts to surface. Years ago, an incident that caused serious trouble for Erkan's family also involved Dicle's father. Dicle only recently discovered this connection and has been terrified that if Erkan learns about it, he will blame her or believe she deceived him. When the truth finally comes out, the moment is emotionally explosive. In one of the most powerful scenes of the episode, Dicle breaks down in tears and tells Erkan everything. At first, he feels deeply hurt, not only because of the past itself, but because the woman he loves kept such an important secret from him. For a moment, it looks like their relationship might collapse under the weight of that revelation. But after the shock fades, Erkan begins to see the situation more clearly. He realizes Dicle was not responsible for what happened in the past, and that the real problem lies in old mistakes made by others. While the two of them struggle to process the truth, the conflict within Erkan's family grows even stronger. His mother openly blames Dicle and insists that the relationship cannot continue. According to her, the past makes it impossible. But this is where Erkan faces his biggest personal test. For the first time, he stands firmly against his family and declares that he wants the right to choose his own life. That moment becomes a turning point not only for him but also for Dicle, because it shows that he is finally willing to fight for their relationship instead of hiding behind family expectations. Just when it seems like the storm might be calming down, another shock arrives. Dicle's father is suddenly hospitalized, throwing everything into chaos again. The news shakes both Dicle and Erkan emotionally. In the final scenes of the episode, we see them standing together in a hospital corridor. Erkan holds Dicle's hand and tells her she is not alone, promising that they will face whatever comes next together. It feels like a fragile moment of hope after so much tension. But the episode refuses to end peacefully. As the camera slowly pulls away, Erkan receives a new message on his phone, something that hints there are still secrets left unresolved. That final detail reminds the audience that even though Dicle and Erkan survived one emotional test, the real storm might only be beginning. Episode 4 therefore becomes a crucial crossroads in the story. Conversations within Erkan's family, especially the pressure from his father, show how strongly logic, status, and obligation are being pushed on him instead of love. When someone tells him he should marry a woman who truly loves him, it sounds less like advice and more like an attempt to control his future. And that pressure sets up the central question moving forward. Will Erkan continue following what his family believes is right, or will he finally choose the woman his heart refuses to let go of? That line doesn't feel like gentle advice at all. It feels like a final verdict being placed on Erkan's life. When someone says, "You'll marry someone who truly loves you," the hidden meaning is basically, love isn't enough and your feelings don't matter as much as the right decision. And in the second teaser for episode 4, you can feel that shift immediately. Compared to the first promo, this one is harsher, more emotional, and much clearer about the central conflict, love versus logic. Erkan's facial expressions, his silence, and the way he absorbs the pressure without pushing back show a storm happening inside him. It's obvious he's not fully willing to marry, but he's also not strong enough, at least not yet, to stand against his family. That hesitation makes his indecisiveness and emotional vulnerability even more visible, and it sets him up as a character who may be about to make the biggest mistake of his life, just to avoid conflict. Alright everyone, that's all for today's episode 4 breakdown. If you enjoyed this analysis and want more updates, theories, and episode explanations about your favorite series, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, Series World, so you don't miss the next video. Your support really helps the channel grow and keeps these discussions going. And before you leave, I want to ask you something. Do you think Erkan will finally listen to his heart and choose Dicle, or will family pressure push him to marry Bursan? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I read your comments and love seeing your theories. See you in the next video on Series World.